happy about that. Thank you all so much for making this happen. I was delighted to look at my YouTube's channel one day last week and see it just gone over 5,000. I thought it would take so much longer to happen. I'm so happy, in fact, that instead of waiting another 2 weeks to make a video, I've made a new video for you today. This one is all about describing pie charts for IELTS Writing Task 1. I hope it's really helpful for you. Check it out. Let's take a look at these pie charts here. They're giving us information about population change in two countries, Yemen and Italy. There are two different years measured, 2000 and 2050. So how do we describe this? This is what I want to tell you today. First of all, let's talk about structure. Now, structure isn't that important in writing Task 1. I mean, it's important, but maybe not quite as important as it is in Task 2. However, you need to group your data sensibly. Here's how I would do it. I'd put all the data from 2000 together and all the data from 2050 together. Why? Because it allows me to compare Italy and Yemen for each of the two different years. Remember, comparing data is really important for Task 1. You can't just describe what you see, you must compare. Another way you might consider grouping the data is with one country and then another. However, this does not really allow you to compare the data, so I would not recommend it. Next, we need to describe the data. You will need to first state a general trend and then give specific details. The general trend is going to go in your introduction. Typically, you find the most obvious thing about the chart, table, or graph. What is the highest or lowest number? Or is there any major change? If there are many changes, or no single one seems to be the most significant, you can be a little vague. Personally, I feel that both Yemen and Italy are different, and they both underwent big changes. I simply state that there are lots of differences and do not give any more detail than that. Also, can you state any specific information in this part of the essay? No, that is not a good idea. Keep it general for now. You'll write specific details later. Here's my introduction. Remember, we're going to describe the data from 2000 first. That means comparing interesting information from Yemen with the pie chart for Italy. For example, you can see that more than half of people from Yemen were aged 14 or younger in 2000, but in Italy that figure was just 14.3%. You should find other figures like this and compare them for 2000 and then for 2050. When we are doing this, we need to avoid using too many numbers, or else our writing will not look good. Remember, this is a test of English, not maths. So how do we do that? Let's take the pie chart for Yemen in 2050. How could we turn these numbers into written language? We could use the following phrases. You can guess which data they refer to. Let's check the answers. Now let's talk briefly about language. This is a tricky part because it's always different. Here we have age groups. These can be difficult to talk about sometimes. We need to know how to refer to people by their age, or how to put people into groups. Then there's the fact that we're talking about two different periods of time, one in the past and one in the future. Let's look at the pie chart for Italy in 2050. How can we describe it? Here we can see some options. You need to identify the group that you're describing and tell the reader that you're talking about the percentage of the population in that age group. Then use a phrase that shows this is in the future and it is a prediction. This is a bit harder than talking about the past, but it's not too difficult. Here is how I would describe the pie charts for 2000. This is my second paragraph. You have already seen the introduction. Now note the language. I have used the highlighted phrases to avoid stating too many numbers. Now look at the underlined phrases, and you can see how I have avoided repeating myself while referring to the different age groups. The result is that there are very few numbers and very little repetition within this paragraph. Looking at the third and final paragraph, you can see that I have used tenses carefully to set the data in the future, and I have also chosen verbs that show that these are predicted data. You can also see that I have avoided referring to these groups in a repetitive way by changing my language. And how many numbers can you see in this paragraph? None. Well, except for a few that I have typed. In summary, you need to group your data together. You should also describe the general trend. Of course, you need to give some specific details. Make sure that your language is accurate. Avoid using too many numbers and avoid repetition. And of course, you must compare data when possible or important. Finally, if you want more IELTS writing practice, that's for both Task 1 and Task 2, check out the link below. It is a completely free course, no credit card, no sign up. It is 100% free. Check it out. Don't forget to subscribe for new videos in the future as well.